At that time, Jichio was shooting, but when she looked at the scoreboard, there were no points. Suddenly, Zichi knocked on the door and said, "Jichio accidentally shot your target." This awkward situation opened up an opportunity for them to talk, helping Zichi get closer to Jichio after many years of separation. So Zichi pretended to be new. Under Jichio's guidance, he shot a 9.5. Jichio was very surprised, never expecting her own mediocre technique could produce such a formidable student. Zichi acted obediently, constantly calling Jichio's sister and praising her teaching. He also conveniently asked for Jichio's phone number so she could teach him more in the future. Jichio's friend, Chi-Lu, was very jealous and actively challenged him to a competition, but Zichi originally didn't intend to win. 5 consecutive shots, only scoring 3 points, he intentionally lost to Chi-Lu and then even said he had no talent and would have to follow Jichio to learn more in the future. He was truly both clever and playfully mischievous. Due to work, Jichio hurriedly went to deal with a client, but ended up forgetting her bag at the reception desk. Zichi used the excuse of returning the bag to find Jichio. He caught her sitting in the basement parking lot scolding a client. He didn't rush to return the bag, but stood to the side, listening as she got angry at the air. He was really happy to see his neighbor's sister again. After returning the bag, he conveniently gave Jichio a ride home. Feeling guilty for taking up his time, Jichio proactively invited Zichi to dinner the next day. Zichi outwardly appeared calm, but in his heart, he was blooming with joy. The next day, the two met at a small bar. Jichio intended to let him try the bar's famous plum wine, but looking at his youthful face, she was a bit worried, fearing Zichi wasn't old enough. She couldn't guess Zichi's age, yet Zichi knew her like the back of his hand. He not only knew she was 26 years old this year and a Scorpio, but he even knew her most hated food and favorite band, guessing everything precisely. Jichio couldn't help but suspect Zichi was a private detective. After drinking 2 bottles of wine, the two leisurely walked home. At this moment, Chi-Lu, standing a few hundred meters away, saw someone digging up his wall. As a psychology lecturer, he was certain that this Zichi had bad intentions, brazenly stealing Jichio right off the street. In the following days, Jichio remained busy with work, while Zichi yearned for each day, only hoping the next date would come soon. He had already found out that Jichio would go to watch a shooting competition on the weekend, and it just so happened that he was also a new star in the shooting world, so he would be competing this time. Zichi hoped this would bring her a surprise. But on the day of the competition, when it was almost time for the finals, Jichio still hadn't arrived. His mood became unstable, leading to a series of mistakes. After an unknown period, Jichio finally rushed over. The moment their eyes met, Zichi's eyes immediately lit up. He gracefully raised his gun and perfectly shot a 10-point score. But due to 2 previous blunders, this time he only won second place. However, for a rookie participating in a major competition for the first time, this result was already very good. Seeing him appear on the competition field, Jichio was extremely surprised. She thought back to how she had seriously taught Zichi how to shoot, realizing Zichi had been pretending to be weak to deceive others. When the competition ended, everyone went to a barbecue restaurant to celebrate. Zichi also specifically invited Jichio, introducing her to everyone as his half-master. Jichio felt very proud, raising her glass and drinking one after another, almost never putting her glass down. When she woke up, she found herself in an unfamiliar room, and there was something stirring in the blanket. She thought she had done something bad after getting drunk, but when she pulled back the blanket and saw her best friend lying next to her, she breathed a sigh of relief, intending to secretly take her friend away. Who knew that as soon as she entered the living room, she bumped into Zichi. This early morning encounter was full of awkwardness. Jichio smiled and thanked Zichi for them bothering him last night, then took her best friend's hand and quickly ran off. Despite being drunk and a bit embarrassing, recalling Zichi's professional competition performance the day before truly surprised and intrigued Jichio. Jichio herself was completely unaware of Zichi's true identity. Since they met again, Zichi would always linger around Jichio whenever he had time, hoping she would soon realize who he was. But Jichio simply regarded him as a shooter. Recently, due to work requirements, Jichio needed to find a highly popular athlete to film for a variety show. Zichi, with his excellent performance in the competition and his fan base approaching 1 million, was an ideal choice. However, after their previous drinking session, every time she saw him, Jichio felt incredibly awkward, so she switched to seeking cooperation with another swimmer. Zichi directed her to the swimming pool. Hearing his friend say that the swimmer had a very bad temper, he immediately rushed to the pool, just in time to catch sight of that person pushing Jichio to the edge of the pool. Fearing she would catch a cold, he wrapped a towel around Jichio and led her away. But the more he walked, the angrier he became, so he turned around and delivered a kick, sending the other athlete straight back into the pool. Zichi gave his jacket to Ji Chio and bought a box of cold medicine, fearing she would catch a cold. After many years of growing up, he had become a warm and capable young man, very skilled at taking care of others. When he walked Ji Chio all the way to her building, he tentatively asked her a question. Ji Chio quietly listened as Zichi hesitantly asked her if they had ever met before. Unfortunately, Ji Chio still didn't recognize him, only thinking he was joking to flirt with her. Her best friend thought that it wasn't impossible for the two of them to try. Zichi was quite good, handsome in appearance and of good character, and also a professional athlete with a bright future. Although he was 4 years younger than Ji Chio, age was not an issue when it came to love. Those words made Ji Chio bloom with joy. Thinking back carefully, from their first meeting, Zichi had shown signs of intentionally wanting to get acquainted, but she had never considered dating someone younger. She intended to find a subtle reason to reject Zichi, but to meet the company's quota, and for Zichi to participate in the variety show, she had to use her charm to discuss cooperation with Zichi. She went to her date with Zichi, accompanying him to an amusement park. Just by paying a little attention, she noticed that the music playing in the car and the snacks were all her favorites. Zichi's gentle gaze always made her blush and her heart flutter. Zichi couldn't wait any longer. He asked Ji Chio to think carefully if she still remembered him. After a moment of thought, Ji Chio looked at the person in front of her with an incredulous expression, then spoke the name she used to call him as a child. After that, Zichi, seemingly a little sulky, asked her, "You finally recognized me." Unexpectedly, the snot-nosed kid from back then had transformed into a handsome, brilliant young man. Ji Chio was really happy about this reunion and wanted to take care of this younger brother more. She immediately wanted to treat him to good wine and delicious food. On the day of their planned outing, her friend reminded Zichi not to dress too casually. To match Ji Chio's previous attire, he specifically wore a black suit. After meeting Ji Chio, he found she was dressed very casually. Before, Ji Chio dressed beautifully to meet the shooter Zichi. First impressions were very important. But now it was different. Younger brother only got this kind of treatment. But it must be said that Zichi in this outfit was indeed very handsome. She couldn't help but let down her hair and tidy up her appearance. In the dinner party, she formally introduced him to her friends. Knowing he wasn't her biological younger brother, Chi-Lu felt a bit unhappy and followed them after the meal. Fearing Zichi would go back to find Ji Chio, Chi-Lu told Zichi to get in the car, offering to drive him home. But Zichi felt this person was very strange, so he politely declined Chi-Lu. Zichi watched Chi-Li's car drive away, feeling even more confused. At this moment, Ji Chio drove up on an electric scooter, tossed him a helmet, and said she wanted to give him a ride, also telling Zichi to hold her waist tightly for safety. Zichi felt it was too intimate and could only symbolically hold 2 corners of her shirt. Initially, Zichi and his whole family moved abroad. The year after that, Ji Chio came to this city to study and work. So much time had passed, so long that she no longer remembered when she discovered this little corner for relaxation. To get Zichi to participate in the variety show, Ji Chio continued to schedule a meeting with Zichi, then said she really liked Zichi. Could Zichi really disappoint her? Zichi panicked, thinking he had misheard, but asking again, he realized Ji Chio had no other intentions. The kind of like Zichi wanted was romantic affection, but the kind of like Ji Chio spoke of was simply the concern of an older sister for her younger brother. However, to persuade Zichi to participate in the variety show, she had put in a lot of effort. Before, she always had a headache planning the new variety show, seeing the 2 young men vying with each other, neither willing to concede. Ji Chio suddenly had a brilliant idea. The variety show she wanted to create was exactly like this feeling right now. People with different professions and contrasting personalities, yet when they gathered, there was a magical sense of connection. The writer Zhong Shu once said something like this: "Meeting once can make the days before and after the meeting also share in the joy, becoming good days." Therefore, she decided to name this show Let's Meet Now. The guest Ji Chio was responsible for inviting was a hot star, Yi Qiao. If this plan failed, their entire team would lose their jobs. But Yi Qiao was known for being picky and difficult in the industry. Ji Chio had tried several times and been flatly rejected. Zichi used his break time to bring snacks to visit her. As a result, the bathroom lock got stuck and he couldn't get out, nor could Ji Chio get in. Ji Chio could only tell him to wait and went out herself to find a locksmith in the neighborhood. Knowing that Yi Qiao was filming at her best friend's place, she immediately forgot about finding a locksmith and went there, hoping Yi Qiao would cooperate. Yi Qiao originally didn't like reality TV shows and also complained that the fee Ji Chio offered was too low. She refused without a second thought. Yi Qiao's rival saw Yi Qiao start boasting about her achievements again, saying she was about to film a very popular reality TV show. Being someone who lived for her pride, Yi Qiao, wanting to diminish the other person's prestige in front of her, agreed to participate in Ji Qiao's show. This made Ji Qiao extremely grateful, with happiness arriving too suddenly. After resolving the difficult work, Ji Qiao wanted to take her best friend out to celebrate, but kept feeling like she had forgotten something. It wasn't until she remembered Ziqi that she realized he had been in the bathroom for 4 hours without a phone or any entertainment, and his mental state was a bit off. This made Ji Qiao feel a little guilty. She carefully helped him into the living room, bringing him tea and water. Seizing this opportunity, Ziqi began to act spoiled with Ji Qiao. When she brought him water, he said cold water was fine, he could handle it, deliberately reminding Ji Qiao that the water in the bathroom was also cold. Ji Qiao heard this and immediately switched to warm water for him. Ziqi spent 10 minutes complaining about the bathroom situation, saying his back was aching and sore. Ji Qiao, though losing patience, couldn't be too harsh because being locked in the bathroom all afternoon, Ziqi had missed his training progress and had to go to the gym for extra practice that night. Ji Qiao felt this was her responsibility and was very guilty, so she wanted to go with him to practice. As Ziqi trained, she sat nearby, looking for materials. Seeing Ziqi's serious demeanor, she couldn't help but take out her phone to capture this moment. A few hours passed, and she couldn't stay awake, repeatedly dozing off. Ziqi felt Ji Qiao was truly adorable at this moment and also took out his phone to snap a few funny selfies. It was very late when they left the stadium. Ji Qiao received good news, including Yi Qiao and a few other guests who had responded. With Ziqi, the variety show's lineup was complete. Ziqi, hearing he was the last to appear, immediately acted conceited because being locked in the bathroom for several hours that afternoon had severely damaged his young soul, and he felt it was very necessary for Ji Qiao to compensate him appropriately. At this time, everything on Ziqi's side was still peaceful. He had agreed to Ji Qiao's request to participate in the variety show filming. The film crew wanted to interview at his house first. As soon as he heard there were cameras, he immediately stuffed all his dirty clothes and socks into the blanket, tidied up the house completely, and then pretended to be surprised by the film crew's arrival, saying he hadn't prepared anything. From the moment she walked in, Ji Qiao kept her mouth agape. Why hadn't she realized before that Ziqi had such a heavy idol burden? In front of the camera, Ziqi eagerly showed everyone the good items in his house, such as colorful fridge magnets and an automatic key finder that called him handsome boy. If he didn't answer, it would keep calling. To highlight his erudition, he led the film crew to tour his home library and said that Yu Bei was his nickname. Ji Qiao was touring the room when she discovered something bulging on the bed. She was about to lift the blanket to see when Ziqi suddenly rushed in at lightning speed. As a result, he couldn't brake in time and fell on top of Ji Qiao. This fleeting kiss was just a small accident for Ji Qiao, but Ziqi was distraught, tossing and turning, unable to sleep. He posted a question online. If he had intimate contact with his best friend, what should he do? Others said, what else could he do? Of course, take responsibility. After this thought popped into his head, he couldn't sleep even more, lying in bed counting nearly 10,000 sheep, which made him sleepless all night. He even had an excited reaction to the name Ji Qiao. When he heard people talking, Ziqi kept hearing them call Ji Qiao's name, then looked around blankly, asking where she was and if everyone saw Ji Qiao. On the day Ziqi competed, when the camera turned to Ziqi, Ji Qiao's best friend couldn't help but exclaim, then praised Ziqi's handsome looks. Ji Qiao often heard people say that, but looking from this angle, he was indeed quite handsome. Qilu stood watching nearby, his tone sarcastic as he said, he's all right. In my school, there are countless guys like him. Ziqi knew this competition was being broadcast live. He competed seriously, but also showed off a bit. While waiting for the interview, he picked up his phone, wanting to share his victory with the person closest to him. This call was from Ziqi to Ji Qiao. He wanted to tell Ji Qiao that he could take responsibility for their previous intimate contact, wanted to gauge Ji Qiao's reaction, but he didn't expect that what had tormented him for so many days, Ji Qiao had forgotten. In this shooting competition, Ziqi won the championship. Everyone would hold a celebration party for him. Originally, Ziqi intended to ask Ji Qiao out and the two would have dinner together, but Ji Qiao said she had to work overtime that evening, so she had to break her promise to Ziqi. Unexpectedly, this world was so small. The two groups of people entered the same restaurant. Ziqi wondered if this was what she called working overtime. Ji Qiao saw that Ziqi wasn't training either. Both of them were the same. Initially, everyone was very suspicious that Ziqi had a girlfriend, but when they learned that the person Ziqi called after winning the championship was Ji Qiao and the person he had a dinner date with was also Ji Qiao, they immediately found nothing more to discuss. They even said that the two were siblings and were disqualified from being backup even before they were in position. Zichi had an unspoken sorrow in his heart. After the competition, he had a few days off, but almost half of that time was spent waiting for Jichio's reply. Jichio and everyone were abandoned by the invited guest and were in a great hurry, completely ignoring him. The team members, to fill the void, targeted Chi-Lu, hoping he could replace the guest and participate in the variety show. Jichio asked Chi-Lu out, wondering how best to phrase her request, but unexpectedly Chi-Lu agreed immediately. Jichio wondered why Chi-Lu agreed so quickly. She hadn't even said anything. But Chi-Lu just looked at her and replied that he thought he could probably do everything Jichio asked for the show. Chi-Lu agreed so quickly that Jichio was touched and hugged him. Chi-Li's heart stirred, but the hug ended before he could respond. Zichi had always been waiting downstairs at Jichio's place, originally wanting to question her about not replying to his messages. But as soon as he saw Jichio, he immediately transformed into a well-behaved younger brother and went inside. Jichio had been to his house more than once, but this time he was particularly shy and constrained, hinting at their previous intimate contact. Jichio, seeing his reaction, thought it was some big deal. She hadn't even given a thought to the previous accident. Zichi's face was full of surprise. He was the only one bothered by love. Zichi stood up abruptly, glared at Jichio, told her he was going home, then rushed out the door. Jichio looked utterly confused. Why did Zichi seem like he'd taken the wrong medicine lately? This morning, Jichio finally had a weekend off, but Zichi insisted on taking her somewhere. As a result, their car broke down halfway. He tinkered under the car for a while, but it was still no good. Left with no choice, the two decided to try hitchhiking. Jichio tied up her hair, and her silhouette against the light almost captivated Zichi. He felt that with her beauty, it was too dangerous for passersby, so he leaned against the car, striking various cool poses, but it didn't help much in getting a ride. Unexpectedly, they met an enthusiastic person. Normally, people would notice a beautiful person, but the driver grinned, staring at Zichi, asking his age and address, which made Zichi a bit startled. The man asked if Zichi was from Chiyoyi town and then looked at the scar on his face, immediately recognizing him as Zichi. Zichi reacted at this moment, realizing the man was Huyang, who had played with them since childhood. The other party took the opportunity of this scar to loudly complain to Zichi about Jichio's fierce temper. The scar on Zichi's face was caused by Jichio accidentally injuring him while helping him to fight. Zichi couldn't help but feel a sweat for Huyang, thinking, "Don't say another word. Jichio's eyes are about to pierce through you." Huyang enthusiastically brought the two home. He prepared to lay out a mat in the living room and pull a curtain in the middle for Jichio and Zichi to stay overnight. Jichio wanted to go to a hotel, but she was afraid Huyang would think they were disrespecting him, so they couldn't refuse and had to stay. As soon as Huyang left, the atmosphere immediately became awkward. Jichio didn't know what to do with her hands and feet, so she could only call her best friend to kill time. Her best friend was very surprised to hear that the two were sleeping in the same room, but on second thought, it was Zichi, so if they were just like siblings, it was nothing. Even though she said that, Jichio still felt a bit uncomfortable. Where her best friend said she wanted to hang up, Jichio's intention of calling all night was shattered. At this moment, Zichi asked her if she was a little nervous. Jichio hurriedly explained that it had probably been a long time since she had gone out with anyone else, so she was just a little unused to it. Both of them were so tense, they couldn't sleep. Jichio suggested casually chatting, for example, asking questions. She talked about everything from her profession to her childhood, but she truly had no impression of scratching Zichi's face. She had also never looked closely, so she wasn't sure if the scar was deep. Zichi lay thinking for a while, then asked Jichio if she wanted to see it now. Zichi pulled back the curtain. For a few seconds, as they looked at each other, both their heartbeats quickened. The atmosphere quickly became ambiguous. Jichio hurriedly turned her face away, thinking that if she looked a few more times, this sibling relationship might turn into something else. In reality, Zichi really wanted Jichio to ask him why he remembered childhood events so clearly, why he thought of meeting her as soon as he returned home, why he couldn't sleep, but Jichio on the other side of the curtain had fallen into a deep sleep with no response. Although Zichi went to sleep very late, he was still very happy. However, the next morning, a little girl appeared in front of them. The little girl said her father told her that sleeping together before marriage was being a hooligan, so she asked who among the two of them was the hooligan. Huyang had loved photography since childhood. He took out childhood photos of them together and then took a new photo of them. Jichio was engrossed in looking at the photos, completely unaware that Zichi's eyes were fixed on her from beginning to end. Zichi really liked Jichio. Whenever he had the chance, he would seek her out. On their way back to town, when he saw Jichio sleeping with the sun shining on her, Zichi carefully shaded her. By the time Jichio woke up, his arm was aching. The two returned to the town where they used to live together reminiscing about their childhood. Although they referred to it as a neighborly sibling relationship, looking back now, it seemed like a couple. Zichi's eyes were always on Jichio. That evening, they walked together on the beach. Jichio's foot was grazed by her shoe. Zichi didn't say a word and immediately squatted down. Unexpectedly, the little brother who used to cry so much had now become a handsome, warm young man. Jichio didn't think much of it, only saying it wasn't in vain that she loved this little brother back then. So now this grown-up little brother knew how to take care of others. The weekend passed quickly. Although he could usually meet Jichio often, Zichi was still very reluctant. All his thoughts were on the shooting competition and Jichio. He even forgot he had a younger brother. Today, the essay assigned by the teacher was titled My Brother. Yubei wrote an essay that the teacher praised as unique and novel, and he read it on the spot. Yubei wrote that his brother was very useless. The whole class suppressed their laughter, whispering that Yubei's writing was fresh, and from an outsider's perspective, Zichi, as an older brother, seemed more like a younger brother who still needed Yubei to take care of him in life. To make his younger brother feel an older brother's love, he decided to pick up his younger brother from school himself. A classmate hurriedly ran to inform Yubei, saying Yubei's older brother was in the hallway, asking which class Yubei was in. Futan, feeling indignant for Yubei, wanted to see what this unreliable older brother looked like. As a result, as soon as she left the classroom, her idol suddenly appeared, a scene just like a dream. It turned out that the older brother Yubei, so deeply disparaged, was none other than Zichi. Futan fawned, pulling Yubei back and asking if Yubei's useless older brother needed a younger sister. The two brothers walked in front, with Futan always following behind. They were so excited they almost fainted. Zichi looked at this classmate who seemed to be a bit hypoglycemic and seriously imparted wisdom on how to treat others to his younger brother, telling Yubei to care for his classmates and buy food for them if they had low blood sugar. Then he intended to turn and talk to Futan, but Yubei just pulled him away, telling him to hurry home. After returning home, Futan told her brother about Zichi coming to school. Qilu was a little nervous, fearing Zichi would find out Futan was his younger sister. Futan asked Yubei about Zichi's preferences, and Yubei, full of jealousy, still told the truth. At dinner, Yubei put half a bottle of vinegar into Zichi's bowl as a small retaliation, but luckily Zichi was about to film the variety show and wouldn't need to meet every day anymore. After many procedures, the show finally began filming. Unlike expectations, the atmosphere was freezing cold. Jichio was almost pierced by the director's gaze and could only urge Zichi to do something to lighten the mood, making Qilu reluctantly play along. In the team division, 2 people per group, Zichi and Qilu ended up in the same group. They were like grasshoppers on the same string, yet they showed extreme uncooperativeness, pulling in different directions, neither willing to yield. Jichio went to bring them dinner. From afar, she already saw Zichi eating. It was a lavish dinner personally made by his assistant, so she went to find Qilu. Zichi originally wanted to invite Qilu to eat with him. Turning his head, he saw the other 2 happily getting along, and immediately felt a surge of jealousy. That evening, the guests played a small game, listing things they had never done. One guest said she had never liked anyone, but what were the criteria for liking someone? This had to be answered by the psychologist Qilu. He looked at Jichio and said that liking someone is when a related topic comes up, you immediately think of that person. You can't help but smile when you see that person. You can't help but get jealous and sulky. You become unlike yourself. But even so, everything related to that person has meaning. When the game ended, the winner asked Zichi what he would say if he could call the person he liked after the competition. Zichi softly said that he would ask that person if they watched his match. Jichio only found the sentence familiar, but didn't realize it was his implicit confession. However, Qilu guessed Zichi's true intentions and seemed to have guessed something from Jichio's side as well. Due to filming the show together once, Jichio refused to sit next to Qilu and explained to Qilu that because of the long journey, she didn't want to bother Qilu. She wanted Qilu to sit comfortably. But then she went to Zichi and told Zichi to move over so she could sit down. Watching the 2 siblings playfully tease each other, Qilu felt bitter. He and Jichio had known each other for 15 years and had never been so relaxed. That weekend, everyone arranged to go ice skating. Gao Yuan explained to them that this ice rink was also known as a dating paradise for couples. Imagine occasional physical contact between 2 people of opposite sexes, occasional patient technical guidance from the person next to you. On the ice, he holds your hand, you hold his hand. Even 2 stones can spark. Zichi began to imagine the romantic scene of holding Jichio's hand and skating on the ice, completely immersed in it and unable to escape. Jichio saw him from afar, smiling foolishly, not knowing what he was happy about. Gao Yuan's goal was very clear, to attract the attention of all the girls. As soon as he entered the rink, He recruited many girls as his students. Zichi felt uncomfortable and wanted to sneak away, but was held tightly by Gao Yuan. He gestured to Jiqiu, saying he couldn't leave. At this moment, Jiqiu completely misunderstood his meaning, thinking this kid was ignoring them and showing off to her. Zichi continued to wave, wanting Jiqiu and everyone to help him out. Jiqiu became even more annoyed, misunderstanding Zichi's waving as him wanting her to stay away. Zichi stood there, waving until his arm almost fell off, but Jiqiu remained unmoved. At this moment, the ice skating team from a nearby university arrived, immediately attracting the attention of all the girls, including Jiqiu and her best friend. Jealousy distorted Zichi. He led Gao Yuan in front of them, completely blocking their view. A handsome guy extended his hand to Jiqiu, wanting to invite her to skate together. Zichi coldly cut off all romantic advances, refusing the handsome guy's invitation. He said a few words and politely sent away the group of people who kept lingering in front of Jiqiu again and again, incredibly annoying, circling around her, constantly calling out Jiqiu, Jiqiu. After teasing them, Zichi extended his hand towards Jiqiu. His eyes suddenly became serious. When Jiqiu placed her hand in his palm, a strange feeling arose in his heart. He slowly guided Jiqiu to find her balance, placing his protective hand behind Jiqiu, guarding her without leaving for a moment. However, Jiqiu lost her balance and leaned backward. Zichi quickly shielded her head, and they both fell onto the ice. The strange thing was that every time Jiqiu saw Zichi from this angle, her heart raced uncontrollably. Clearly, the person in front of her was just her younger brother. When their eyes met, the air was filled with pink bubbles. Returning to the resting area, Jiqiu's eyes continuously avoided Zichi, not daring to look him directly in the face. That evening, he tentatively asked Jiqiu what kind of boyfriend she wanted to find in the future. In reality, Jiqiu had never thought about this thoroughly, but at least he had to be faithful, unlike her ex-boyfriend. Talking about this, Zichi became even more interested, constantly asking if her ex-boyfriend had pestered her, telling her to just tell him if anything happened, and he would protect her. A simple sentence, but it brought an incredibly great sense of security. Jiqiu's mouth said, "Well, you know, kid," but in her heart, she was moved to tears. Since having someone he liked, Zichi not only kept a safe distance from his brothers and friends, but he even stopped raising female fish. At this moment, Zichi looked incredibly foolish. If he didn't interact with females, that was one thing, but why was he avoiding female animals too? Zichi told his brothers that he had someone he liked, his handsome face filled with embarrassment. Everyone asked if the person was pretty. Zichi just smiled and blushed without speaking, and the whole group immediately buzzed, saying she must be very beautiful. When asked about the other person's personality, Zichi seriously replied that she was very good, which gave the group another reason to gossip. Zichi immediately used the excuse of buying ice cream to invite Jiqiu out and to casually play at a nearby amusement park for a bit. Jiqiu felt she was dressed inappropriately and hesitated to go. Zichi didn't understand why. When they were little, didn't they just go out as they pleased? Why was she suddenly caring about what she wore? He grabbed Jiqiu's wrist, his voice gentle yet a little domineering, telling her to hurry up, as if he was kidnapping her. The two went to play bumper cars. Jiqiu wanted to hold the steering wheel herself. Zichi tricked her, saying that the people sitting next to them were all leaders. Were there any leaders who drove themselves? Jiqiu heard this and thought it made sense. She excitedly commanded, driving back and forth happily. In the middle of it, a bumper car collided with them. Due to inertia, they almost crashed into each other and even felt each other's breath. Jiqiu's face suddenly felt a little hot, and she quickly joked to divert attention. Otherwise, she would have been too embarrassed to play. Before leaving the amusement park, Jiqiu bought 2 keychains with initial letters at a roadside stall. Zichi secretly swapped them for her name's initials when she wasn't paying attention. Jiqiu had recently been physically and mentally exhausted. Her variety show's ratings were getting lower and lower. She was both worried and guilty, but still tried to pretend everything was fine. That day, she still worked overtime until late as usual. Only a mischievous voice called her name from behind. Turning around, she saw Zichi imitating a tiger's voice, asking if Jiqiu had missed him during the past few days they hadn't seen each other. After several years of navigating society, Jiqiu had long since learned to suppress her emotions and act like an adult. She always hid it well, but in front of Zichi's childish demeanor, all her resilience crumbled. She was sobbing due to immense work pressure. Zichi quietly stayed by her side, wiping her tears with his sleeve, consoling her with an obedient expression. When acting spoiled and cute, Zichi was like a younger brother, but when he became profound and spoke about life philosophy, he felt like a reliable older brother. With his companionship, Jiqiu's mood had improved significantly. He gave Ji-chyo a small tiger plush toy, mimicking the plush toy's voice to praise her beauty and resilience, then wished her a good night, saying he would be by her side. After Ji-chyo calmed down, everything indeed took a turn. A famous social media channel enthusiastically promoted their show, receiving very high ratings from netizens. The famous star Yi Chiao also proactively posted to help them promote it. Not only that, when the online seminar began, Chi-lu asked the host to do something. Ask a question related to the variety show, with the aim of promoting the show. With the efforts of many parties, this variety show was successfully saved and entered its second season. The second season of the variety show quickly filmed its final episode. In the game Who is the Spy, only the spy lies. The female guest asked Chi-lu if he liked anyone. Chi-lu looked at Ji-chyo for a long time and then said no. The spy's identity was successfully revealed, and the game ended. Ji-chyo had never heard that Chi-lu liked anyone and guessed that he might have known someone at school, so she didn't pay too much attention to it. When picking up the cameras, Zichi and Chi-lu accidentally swapped theirs. Then, they discovered that in each other's lenses, there was only Ji-chyo. If that was the case, destiny allowed only one winner. The two vied to show off in front of Ji-chyo, openly expressing their care, secretly declaring their ownership. Beneath their harmonious facade lay 800 subtle tricks. Zichi couldn't find toilet paper, so Chi-lu took a pack from under the table and skillfully retrieved more reserves from the cabinet, generously offering to help find anything else, as he was familiar with the house anyway. Zichi was so annoyed he could choke, but pursuing a girl required seeing who was more brazen. He clung to Ji-chyo, refusing to leave her side, competing with Chi-lu to see who could last longer. That weekend, Ji-chyo invited her best friend to watch a horror movie. The two guys, of course, didn't miss this opportunity and trail behind. Zichi securing a seat next to Ji-chyo was truly a perfect alignment of time, place, and people. Chi-lu wanted to play rock, paper, scissors, where the loser would swap seats. Zichi flatly refused, giving him no chance at all. The two adopted completely opposite strategies. Chi-lu was very scared of horror movies, but to show off in front of Ji-chyo, he stubbornly claimed he wasn't scared. Zichi, on the other hand, was clearly not scared, but to awaken Ji-chyo's protective instincts, he intentionally pretended to be weak and scared. Then, when the movie officially began, Chi-lu was suddenly seen holding a corner of Zichi's shirt to cover his eyes. When Zichi caught him, he continued to stubbornly claim he wasn't scared at all. Zichi noticed that other couples in climax scenes would hug each other tightly, so he quickly learned the skill of screaming and grabbing Ji-chyo's sleeve, saying he was a little scared. This trick indeed worked. Ji-chyo, seeing he was scared, offered him an arm. Zichi, blooming with joy, tightly hugged Ji-chyo's arm. Even the horror movie felt sweet. He had almost completely dug through the wall. Chi-lu next to him was still immersed in the horror movie, both scared and enjoying watching it, completely forgetting about pursuing girls. To win the attention of the girl they liked, these two rivals had battled wits and courage for 10 episodes. But at this crucial moment, an even stronger competitor appeared before them. This person was Ji-chyo's university senior, handsome and elegant, and a returning overseas student. He looked at Ji-chyo with eyes so fixated they seemed to melt. The two arranged to go see a double feature. Zichi couldn't keep calm anymore. He couldn't imagine the scene of the two eating popcorn and holding hands on a weekend. He secretly went to the cinema, completely disguised, to watch Ji-chyo, and coincidentally ran into the suspicious Chi-lu. The cinema had a promotion: friendship double tickets at 20% off, couple double tickets at 50% off. Zichi and Chi-lu were like oil and water. How could they pretend to be friends for a small discount? But a 20% discount was truly too tempting. Both advocated for saving money and bought friendship double tickets without hesitation. The ticket seller awkwardly said, "But you two don't look like friends." Hearing this, the two stood closer, acting intimate, and thus successfully bought the 20% off friendship tickets. After the movie started, everyone was staring at the screen. Only the two of them stared intently at Ji-chyo, fearing that if they were distracted for a moment, the other two would become a couple. After the movie ended, the two prepared to follow them again, but as a result, they were recognized by fans, exposing their identities. Zichi awkwardly explained to Ji-chyo that Chi-lu had invited him to watch the movie. Those who don't dare to confess their feelings, like these two, are often afraid of someone appearing suddenly. They haven't had it, so they're not afraid of losing it. Their best friend said that confessing to a friend carries a huge risk, unless both parties feel the same way. Doesn't TV often say that childhood sweethearts can't beat someone new they've just met? They're only afraid that if the confession fails, they won't even be able to remain friends. These words weighed heavily on Zichi's heart. Currently, he and Chi-lu felt the same way, afraid that if the confession failed, they wouldn't even be able to face each other. They absolutely dared not gamble. The handsome senior sent another invitation to Ji-chyo, asking her to dinner this weekend. Jichio hesitated a little, wanting to ask Zichi if she should go. Just as Zichi was about to have a competition, she prepared an armband, using the excuse of a gift to meet Zichi. Zichi playfully asked why she cared about him so much. Jichio awkwardly laughed and said it was natural for an older sister to care for her younger brother. The title of siblings once again touched Zichi's pain. When Jichio said she was going to dinner with her senior this weekend, Zichi really wanted to say don't go, but the words reached his mouth and turned into a different question. Zichi asked Jichio if she only saw him as a younger brother. Seeing her silence, Zichi smiled and wished her a happy date. Whenever he was in a gloomy mood that he couldn't resolve, besides Jichio, Zichi could only turn to Qi-Lu. Having competed for so long, Qi-Li's character was clear to everyone. He was an excellent psychological counselor, a friend worth making for the long term, and he would definitely be a reliable life partner in the future. In reality, Qi-Li's worries were no less than Zichi's, because he also intended to confess his feelings. His old diary was full of Jichio's big and small affairs. After many days of hesitation, he finally decided not to do anything he would regret and decided to confess to Jichio. Throughout the date with her senior, Jichio was uneasy. Only when talking about Zichi did her eyes light up. Even her senior noticed that she had someone she liked, and that person was Zichi, whom she unintentionally kept mentioning. Jichio had some doubts about herself. Could it be that her feelings for Zichi were not just an older sister's concern for her younger brother? Should they really develop from a sibling relationship into a romantic one? Zichi had hesitated for a long time. His love rival, Qi-Lu, had taken a step ahead of him and decided to confess his feelings to Jichio. He didn't give romantic roses, but prepared Jichio's favorite tulips. In 2 more months, their friendship would reach its 15th year. Since studying psychology, he could easily see through others' thoughts, but always couldn't see through Jichio. Initially, he self-deprecatingly thought his skills were inadequate, but later he realized that when a person's emotions start to be affected by another person, they can no longer make rational judgments. When he met Jichio, he immediately hid the flowers behind his back, smiling and saying he had something important to tell her. Seeing Jichio seemed to have something on her mind, he remained as subtle as ever, letting Jichio speak first. Jichio shyly told Qi-Lu that she seemed to like Zichi, but she wasn't sure if she should confess. Qi-Li's heart sank, feeling both sad and disappointed, but he still played the role of a gentle friend, telling Jichio to go for it if she liked him. He, on the other hand, buried the long-held affection in his heart. Finally, Qi-Lu wished her all the best. That evening, as Jichio was thinking about how to confess to Zichi, Zichi rushed over and hugged her, saying he had a dream, but he couldn't remember what he dreamt, only that when he woke up, he really wanted to see her. That day, he actually didn't want Jichio to go on a date with her senior, but the words reached his mouth and turned into wishing her a successful date. People always like to say one thing and do another, turning something very good into just okay, and turning longing into meeting. Jichio heard this and asked, "So what about Zichi?" Zichi, both serious and gentle, told Jichio that his liking had turned into dreaming about her. Now, the sibling relationship had turned into a romantic one. This was what Zichi was most proud of. He wished he could announce to the whole world that Jichio had agreed to be his girlfriend. That evening, he was so excited he couldn't sleep. Everything felt like a beautiful dream. This love was sickeningly sweet. The two wished they could cling to each other everywhere, all the time. Not seeing each other or hearing each other's voice for even a second felt like suffering the pain of unrequited love. They had just met, but were already longing for the next meeting. Zichi told Gao Yuan that he and Jichio were together, but Gao Yuan just thought he was joking and didn't believe him at all. Jichio's best friend also didn't suspect their relationship, thinking that the two being in a room late at night was about discussing work. Jichio felt it was time to make this relationship public to her friends and planned a gathering for the weekend. Thinking of Qi-Lu, Zichi felt a little guilty. He genuinely said Qi-Lu was a really good person and he didn't know how to bring up this matter. But in reality, he didn't need to say anything. Qi-Lu had seen through everything. For Qi-Lu, Jichio was not only the girl he liked, but also the moonlight that appeared in his dark night, never belonging to him but having once illuminated him. Besides friendship, the two would have no other relationship, but he still threatened Zichi that if Zichi didn't treat Jichio well, he would pursue her again. Of course, Zichi wouldn't give him that chance. When they announced it to their friends, everyone said they didn't believe it until they saw Zichi kiss Jichio with their own eyes. Jichio didn't hit him and even had a shy expression. Only then did Gao Yuan believe it. Seeing everyone gather again like before, talking and laughing together, Qi-Lu felt it was also very good. Whether it was his rival or the girl he liked, he chose to take a step back and remain in the position of a friend. This concludes the entire content of the film. Thank you all for your attention and support. Goodbye and see you again.